A new survey suggests a quarter of New Zealanders are struggling with the cost of living. Despite growing expectations that interest rates will continue to fall, a majority worry that inflation will rise due to global economic headwinds. And as Zane Small reports, nearly half of respondents are concerned about job security.
Well, new migration data shows a record number of people are leaving New Zealand and most are choosing to move to Australia. It's prompted fears of a brain drain as workers look for opportunities they say aren't available at home.
A group of 20 senior economists has written to the Prime Minister and Finance Minister, warning that the government's economic strategy is failing and is causing long-term harm to communities across New Zealand.
Police numbers are slowly heading in the right direction, but with just 13 extra officers since the election, the government has a long way to go to deliver the promised 500 by the end of the year. And they're up against surging gang numbers, as well as an unprecedented increase in methamphetamine consumption.
From a distance, New Zealand looks untouched, a country once sold to the world as paradise, clean, peaceful, prosperous, an economy worth $263 billion sitting quietly at the edge of the world. But look closer, past the beaches, the green hills, the quiet towns, and you realize something is off, something unsettling, not loud, not dramatic, but slow, quiet, structural. The kind of shift you only notice when the ground is already moving beneath you. And the first warning sign is hiding in the numbers. In the second quarter of 2025, manufacturing dropped 3.5%, construction slipped 1.8%, and the country's GDP fell 0.9%. They look harmless at first, tiny movements on a chart, a soft contraction here, a sector dipping there, nothing dramatic, nothing that screams collapse. But when you zoom out, the picture darkens. Because the cost of living didn't fall with the economy, it rose. Inflation crept up to 3%. And daily life, groceries, rent, power, grew heavier, like a slow tightening around the average household. People didn't panic, they just adjusted, they endured. But endurance has a limit, and that limit began to snap in a place no one expected. Not through protests, not through riots, but through something far quieter: departures. In the year ending August 2025, 73,900 New Zealanders packed their bags and left, many quietly, without drama. More than half of them went to Australia, not for sunshine, for survival. A country doesn't lose that many people unless something deep within it has already begun to shift. And when they leave, they don't just take themselves. They take skills, stability, future taxpayers, pieces of the national bloodstream. Small towns feel it first: empty storefronts, fewer workers, fewer kids in school. The kind of decline too slow to make headlines, but too fast to ignore if you live there. And if you still think this is just a temporary dip, look at the labor market. Unemployment climbed to 5.3%, the highest since 2016. That's 160,000 people out of work. Youth unemployment hit 15.2%, a generational warning flare. Young people without work, skilled workers leaving, businesses shutting down, and the numbers confirm what people already feel in their bones. 1,270 closures in the first half of 2025 alone, with total liquidations expected to break last year's 10-year record. This isn't a slowdown, it's a draining. And what happens when you drain too much from a country too small to lose anything? You expose vulnerabilities most nations never have to confront all at once. Because while the economy was weakening, something else, something more disturbing, was rising under the surface: a social crack. Methamphetamine use didn't just increase, it surged, almost doubling in a year. Communities speak of it quietly, almost shamefully. Police know it, social workers feel it, families live with it, but the country rarely talks about it openly. Drugs don't just damage individuals, they hollow out neighborhoods. They turn small problems into big ones. They amplify pressure on systems that are already failing. And those systems, the public sector, were hit with cuts at the worst possible moment. Thousands of government jobs gone, pay freezes, budget reductions, nurses, teachers, firefighters, people who hold the social fabric together. It all snapped at once when 100,000 public sector workers walked out in protest, one of the largest strikes in modern New Zealand history. A country usually defined by calm, suddenly sounding like something inside it was beginning to coil. But even that wasn't the most dangerous warning sign, because the real threat, the one almost everyone feels but few understand, is energy. New Zealand's power system has always seemed reliable from the outside: hydropower, renewables, clean energy. But inside the grid, engineers have been quietly raising concerns. The system is strained, prices are soaring, and the country doesn't have enough baseload generation to guarantee stability. It's the kind of problem you only notice when the lights flicker, or when a winter storm pushes the grid one notch past its limits. But by then, it's already too late. Energy is the foundation of everything: jobs, industry, hospitals, households. And when a grid is under pressure at the same time an economy is shrinking and workers are leaving, the risk compounds. Because the people New Zealand needs to rebuild the system, engineers, technicians, specialists, are the same people boarding flights to Brisbane, Perth, and Sydney. This is how crises converge, not through a single catastrophic event, but through slow accumulation, like rising pressure inside a sealed room. You lose workers, the economy weakens. The economy weakens, businesses close. Businesses close, unemployment rises. Unemployment rises, people leave. People leave. The grid lacks skilled labor. The grid strains, costs rise. Costs rise, more people leave. A loop, a quiet loop, tightening with every cycle. But here's the strange twist. In the middle of all this, something remarkable is happening. New Zealanders are pushing back. Entrepreneurs are adapting. Small towns are rebuilding local economies from the ground up. Tech hubs are forming in places nobody expected. Farmers are reinventing old systems. Communities are stepping in where institutions are falling short. It's not enough to reverse the crisis yet, but it proves the country hasn't lost its spark. Not yet. This brief glimmer of hope matters because it means the story isn't finished. And when a nation wakes up at the edge of a cliff, the next step can reshape an entire generation. But that moment of hope is only the midpoint. Because when you zoom back out, the picture becomes darker again. Not chaotic, not dramatic, just stuck. A kind of quiet inertia beneath the surface, not enough to break the system, but enough to slow everything down. New Zealand's politics move, but the direction changes with every election. Governments shift, priorities reset, and long-term plans evaporate before they ever turn into action. Housing reform stalls, energy reform stalls, manufacturing revival stalls, tax modernization stalls. Not because leaders don't want solutions, but because the system is designed to move cautiously, even when the situation demands speed. And that's the frightening part. Not the unemployment, not the departures, not the energy strain, not the meth crisis. It's the possibility that New Zealand is drifting, not collapsing, not exploding, just slowly sliding into a future no one voted for. The kind of future where the warning signs aren't dramatic enough to alarm the world, until one day they suddenly are. Because at a certain point, national decline stops being a temporary moment and becomes a trajectory. But here's the twist that makes New Zealand's crisis even more important internationally. This isn't just a local story. New Zealand is strategically placed in the Pacific. It's part of the Five Eyes. It sits in a region where global powers are competing for influence. And a weakened New Zealand, economically, socially, energetically, leaves a vacuum. And in geopolitics, vacuums attract attention long before they attract solutions. That's why analysts are watching this situation quietly, the same way they watch slow-moving earthquakes, the kind that begin with tiny cracks before pressure forces a rupture. New Zealand isn't doomed. It's not collapsing. But it is shifting, quietly, rapidly, and in a way that shouldn't be possible for a country this admired. And the world hasn't noticed, not yet. But if the current trajectory continues, they will. Because what's happening in New Zealand right now, beneath the calm surface, isn't just unusual. It's a warning, a quiet one. But the quiet warnings are always the most dangerous. If you got value from this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And don't stop here. Click the video on your screen for another deep dive into economics. See you there.